Okay. Okay, here we are on a Friday at noon. Take a second to just kind of settle. And settle. What does it mean? It just means, there's things that have been going on, been cleaning up here and there. Just being easy and in the moment. Physically, I start to kind of feel more conscious, not just aware. I know I'm breathing, but conscious. My breathing. And as I get easier, the breathing sort of starts to deepen, become natural. Starting to kind of feel the body more fully, like I'm feeling my feet, feeling the contact with the rug. And a better up-down sense of the body. Okay, so instead of all the stuff going on here, just more body feel right here, right now. The up-down of the spine kind of clicked in. So it's a moment by moment. The in, the out breath, starting to get that as an in and out, which is more than just I'm breathing. But comes in, expands out, comes back in. See, there's being aware and there's being conscious. And they're somewhat similar, but they're not quite the same. Like I'm aware that my mind is kind of quieting down a little bit. But I keep measuring my mind in terms of quiet or less quiet. When I measure it, I get stuck in it. And being conscious is a bigger package. And one of the things to do is to get a little bit more into what Bruce Lee might call body feel. Initially, aware I'm feeling the body. And just be very easy there. And at a certain point, there's kind of a shift into the body is feeling itself. Now I want to kind of measure it, the awareness of it. It's like, yeah, the body feels relaxed. It feels lighter, but present, not so heavy and easy. And so body feel is the location. And body feel is a little bit of a gateway, maybe to other things. For example, call it a quality. And the word I get is stillness. And easy there. My awareness mind just very busy with it. So again, back into the body. Feel. Easy. Open, settle. And it's kind of your ticket gateway into, we call it equality. You get really fancy, it's another dimension. And it may call itself something. To me, it just said stillness. And so somebody says, what are you doing? Well, I'm sitting, I'm settling, I'm being very easy with things. I'm trying to get to a place called body feel as opposed to, because other than that, I'm just in the awareness, some of which is good, some of which is upper. And on the way to body feel, I feel my breathing. As I'm more conscious, not just aware of the breathing kind of tends to deepen, become more natural. And the body feels a gateway to other things, like again, the space. And sometimes it'll talk to you in terms of a word like stillness. It's good one. Sidebar, emptiness. Easiness. The space is very easy with itself. And again, my awareness takes that and just tries to figure it out. Just very busy with it. You know, how do I get that? Just settle back in, go back into the body field. Easiness, stillness, emptiness. You know, I become a bit more conscious of the under support. Well, Sensei, in one of his more mysterious moods, because I've only heard him reference this once in terms of the literature that's available, the underworld. He called it the land of the roots. Don't you kind of get into stillness, emptiness, easiness of the space. The land of the roots, the under starts to show. Yeah, as I kind of sit with that under. A word comes up. The word is calmness. Very calm with itself. Easy there, easy. Okay. So anyway, that's kind of a warm up for whatever. Cliff, anything on that?
Just that I notice my breathing is pretty deep and steady.
Yeah. But one of the things that we're doing a little bit is that, you know, the way that, you know, I would explain it is that, you know, the basic Einstein, okay, I'm not sure it's basic Einstein, but the universe is multi-dimensional. as are we. And so getting in touch with the finer spaces of the universe, one also gets in touch with the finer sense of who we are. So I've always thought that that particular quote, the universe is multi-dimensional, as are we. You could turn that around. We are multi-dimensional, as is the universe. As we explore our own fuller, deeper, truer nature, the universe reveals itself in a like manner. Well, Sensei said something once in one of the writings. Obviously, I wasn't there when he said it, but it was transcribed. And he just said, people think sometimes I'm talking about religion. He says, I'm not. I'm talking about spiritual science. So, there's ways that, you kind of go in, and science is about measuring and creating facts and then corroborating the facts, and then you get a bigger piece of something, and then you've got more to corroborate, and then you do that, you get a bigger piece. And the fact is, that what we understand about the universe has been measured as 5%. And there's another 20% of the universe that's dark matter. Okay. And there's another 50% of the universe that's dark energy. And dark matter and dark energy exist simply to codify the 5% that we get. I always thought that was pretty fascinating. Underworld, land of the roots. Anything on that?
Yeah, I mean, cosmology is still, if you talk to different cosmologists, and I do from time to time, the dark energy and dark matter is either, totally set in stone as reality, or subject to vanishing with new theories emerge. But I think the bottom line is that the cosmos that is, visible and measurable even with quantum mechanics is clearly not the whole picture at all, whether there's dark energy or dark matter, or whether there's 11 dimensions as string theory and M theory hold, only 8 of them are very small. There's more going on than we've been able to measure yet, and there's a whole lot of active research on what the cosmos is beyond what is visibly obvious. So I think that jibes with our intuitive sense that there's a whole lot more going on than we can perceive and do.
The fact is, we're not going to understand the universe, which is multidimensional, until we fully understand who we are. Otherwise, what we're doing is our consciousness measures. Therefore, we see what's out there in terms of a limited sense of who we are. So we're always going to get a limited model. And one of the things that really attracted me to Aikido was Sensei. Because he was kind of a living model of there's more to what we can be than we currently tap. And as you explore that, the universe starts to reveal itself. So it's a one-to-one. I mean, words like he or she who understands the secret of Aikido has a universe inside them and can say, I am the universe. So that was always kind of a big one for me. You know, you become a scientist of the spirit or energy, or which means you're simultaneously studying more who you are, and as a consequence of that, you start to tap or understand more of the universe, dark matter. Okay, the universe isn't flying apart. So there's something that must exist called dark matter that holds it together. Dark energy, on the other hand, the universe is expanding. Some people say we're expanding at the speed of light. Okay. Okay, 20% holding everything together, dark matter. 50% dark energy. Okay. And here we are in 5%. And I've heard varying degrees about how much mental capacity we actually use. And it's pretty small, right? So, you know, that sense of understand who you truly are, you'll begin to get a better sense of the universe. Einstein, otherwise, he would have just studied, you know, would have studied Newton and figured the universe was just the way Newton said it was, and found out it wasn't. So he created his own. I mean, he didn't create it, but he had to kind of bring it into being. Okay, and then of course there's the quantum realm, which even he, you know, he struggled with it, and we're struggling with it. So both of those involve some sense of measurement. Okay, the 5% here is measured. The other 70%, the 20% dark matter, the 50% dark energy, only exists for our 5% to hold. So what we did was kind of like a exploration, you know, self is maybe the interior universe. We did a little bit of that. So one of the things is you find your breathing as a consequence of it. And again, the gateway is, you know, what Bruce Lee called body field. Now, as the body field gets a little better, then our stuff here gets better. Yeah. So, yeah. Settle in.
Can I quote? I'm going to quote a guy named Terence McKenna, who was an ethnobotanist, which is a nice way of saying that he took a lot of hallucinogenic drugs and worked with shamans of various traditions. But he had a very poetic sense of things from what he experienced. And one of the things he said was, in the body, that is in the human body, there are Niagaras of beauty, right? And that's a sense of like both the complexity and the beauty of the complexity within ourselves. Like humans are whole universes, right? Like any animal, any larger animal, because there's trillions of cells. And we've learned recently that the number of symbiotic organisms outnumbers our cells that are actually us 10 to 1. And are they part of us, even though they don't share our DNA? What's the relationship? And so a person is in constant communication with the universe and the air around us and the earth and everything, each other in this way. And so I think some of what O Sensei was tapping into was that understanding. of like a literal biological reality.
Good. There's a magic word. You want to hear it? No? Okay.
Sure.
It's called hush. All those people with all those insights, what they had to do is sort of shut up, get a little bit more interior, allow the self to unfold, and therefore the creation, the universe. I mean, one way of looking at the universe is a fact. Oh, okay. But the universe, as we unfold, is also unfolding. So it's not just a universe, it's a creation that's ongoing as we discover more about ourselves. The universe expands to meet that. Likewise, as the universe expands, we also ideally, right? So one of the things about it, hush. Now, right about here, it goes into the sense imagine realm. Energy field. And even though it's a field, there's no likeness. There's a beat, a breathing to it. You say it's breathing, heartbeat. So all of a sudden, yeah, the universe. And is that the universe, or is it a bigger sense of who I am? You know, fancy word. Astral body, energy body. But if I'm bigger than the physical body, then the universe has a body as well. Universe is a body. And we're so mental that the body itself may connect to a larger sense of who we are. Everything you said leads one to believe. As you explore yourself more, you become creative. You become a creator. And some of that is seeing the beauty that's right in front of you that is missed when we get too caught up in what I call the thought form level. It's just been very easy there. The magic word is called hush. Otherwise, we get caught up in the knowledge, some of which is very beautiful. But to kind of settle a little deeper into the texture of that, into the breathing of it. And as I start to feel, let's say, myself on deeper levels, not just physical, but energy, right? Vibration. We maybe start to sense that there's that other thing is also kind of there, sensing, feeling. And not when I'm caught up in the noisy mind, the thought form level of who I am, but expanding out. There starts to be kind of a communication. And that magic word is called hush. If I look forward, all that thought form energy is going on up here, but you're just already tuned into a bigger piece of yourself, so to speak. Anyway, anything before we move on?
Nothing additional. That makes sense.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I know one thing that Mr. Einstein said. I now bask in the silence that was so painful to me in my youth. So as we find that gateway to the more of who we are, therefore, as we get the more of who we are, get more of the universe, so to speak. Initially, it's really difficult to get past this noise because there's a tremendous amount. When I say calm, guess what? There's a tremendous amount of energy and vital force in that calm. So there I am in my noisy mind. I start to touch it. I get too busy. I get too wrapped up in things. So just the word hush comes up. And, if you call this meditation, yeah, it's kind of a meditative practice. I'm sure our sensei spent a lot of time in spaces like this because he was our sensei. And a lot of people find it too, as Mr. Einstein put it, painful. We'd rather be busy with our thought form level, right? Anyway, here we are. So that was kind of what we call just a journey, but you can take it anytime you're be easy, open, settle. The hush is a better word for when you can sit, settle in, go a little deeper, but easy, open, settle. Okay. And again, when you're working inside, a lot of times I work something that is shorter because you can go back and smash something, right? So if that's the case, got something a little shorter. This I like because it kind of has the 3-section spear tip on it. Okay. See, it's the point where, initially, okay, like for example, I learned a form, the structure. Yeah. So, there's a form. And what does the form do? Yeah, it's knowledge. Right? And it gives you the structure, gives you a certain amount of security when you like it, certainly with other people that like it, for this kind of a bonding on a social level. Now what we're doing a little bit right there is we're taking a lot of stuff that's in there. And so, that's just some practice with movement. Anything come up right there?
Nothing profound, just that I've noticed as I have continued to practice that it's flowing more like one move into another.
Yeah, okay.
Then,
Good.
because I know it so well, I don't think about the next move. I just keep moving.
Yeah. Well, right there, there's an area where, because you know it better, and you have to be careful there, because what happens is the knowledge. We understand Isaac Newton really well. Okay, now my own experience in high school physics, I found Isaac Newton a big bore. I didn't do very well, and then we had a whole quarter. I think we had a quarter system then, I believe, yeah. And we studied quantum physics. Man, quantum physics was fun. I was just top of the class. I was with Newton. I was just bored. I was just bored beyond belief. But the quantum stuff, wow. Okay. So there's an area right there where do you really understand? I mean, Newton is about measurement. And I kind of found that after a while to be boring. Okay. You want to know where the 30 movements came from? Well, when Hikazuchi Sensei he stayed with my parents for a month, May of 1974. And what happened is, he brought with him a couple of the bow-length staffs. What I had on my own was just a Joe, because everybody else in Aikido did the Joe, the short staff. And he brought a long staff. In fact, it really pissed him off because I didn't have a case for it. So I had my Joe case, right? And I would wrap cloth here, because other than that, it would stick out. And he thought that was really rude, but I didn't have a case for it. Okay. And what happened is one day he came out and he said that the Kami-sama had come to him and told him that he was supposed to reveal to me the secret of the staff or the spirit. And he was somewhat shaken, okay? And he actually told me, he says, and I'm going to be honest with you, I don't want to do it. And I don't know what's going on. And so what happens is he takes me outside, because there's my parents' there's a house and there's a backyard. It wasn't very big, but it was kind of nice. I used to do Tai Chi there. And so it does something like this. It says, and it's, you've seen movements like this. Hey! as I remember, I forgot, either bow, the four directions. And then he did what I did with the sound. And then he went in there and, you know, he kind of started to move around. Then he says to me, get in there. And I'm in there, you know, and I'm just like this, going, duh, duh, duh. And then he looks at me and yells and says, move. I said, yeah, but I can't do what you did. He said, because, you know, we had a, not a, it's similar, but, you know, we had a, I think it was like 35 minutes. So I did that. He said, good, it's done. I said, but well, when are you gonna teach me? And he said, it's done. And you know, the only thing I could think about was that he opened the gateway. He had me stand in it. But there I am thinking, you're supposed to teach me something. Darn. And so what happens is, you know, it's a very hectic month because wherever he goes, he's going to all the schools in the Northern California area and teaching. And so he leaves, and you know, it takes me a certain amount of time to recover from all that driving and all that intensity. All right. But I go back out to where he stood. And you know, I mean, I start to think, and I didn't know what I was doing, but you know, the staff would start to move. 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 I didn't know what I was doing. And I noticed, for example, you know, initially I go somewhere else and wouldn't move. So, you know, I went home, I'd go stand right where he stood, and boom, it would start to move. And I was working not with a spear, but you know, the actual information that was encoded in that gateway was a spear movement. Okay. And then after a while, I can't remember exactly how long, it's just, you know, I would go somewhere else, and all of a sudden, you know, I wasn't bound to that place, and all of a sudden I could start to move. No, I didn't understand what I was doing. Okay. And then, you know, Nadeau Sensei and I kind of do some work as part of that work, whatever that work is, you know. And people ask about it sometimes, like Linda Holiday Sensei said, well, what do you guys do? And I said, well, you know, we kind of try to talk to the universe, you know, through a kind of a no sensei code, and you know, try to figure out, you know, what I was talking about. As you understand yourself more fully, the universe reveals itself. As the universe reveals more of itself, you start to understand yourself. So we kind of do that. And so, you know, the kami, so to speak, the sacred forces of the universe said, okay, you understand how to do all this stuff in a free form. So create a form. And I went, And, you know, it was kind of, you know, well, okay, let's, because I know what Sensei did it, so we start out this way, you know. And then the first part of it was just like what I learned in Shingo from Ikizuchi Sensei. And then he also taught Nikkyo Sankyo, and another teacher, Mr. Kato, did. So, you know, I started this way. Okay, and you know, and I was saying, and you know, then I started, you know, going with that last third. Okay, well, it took a while. Okay, it's actually taken a couple of years. Right. And so I come up with various things, and then finally, let's just say the kami said that one. So that's one we do. And so, you know, it's something obviously that I created. Yeah, kind of, but you know, it was more like it's sort of a compendium of several other sets I know, but there's also some pretty distinct aspects to it that I sort of got just by standing in that space that Ikizuchi Sensei opened and just letting the staff move. Any questions or any comments?
Well, one thought, you said it was May of 1974, and that's 50
Yeah.
years ago to the month.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing one form or another for about 50 years, so yeah.
So happy anniversary.
Yeah,
But
well, yeah, I didn't think of that. I mean, if it was 50 years ago, I would have been in Santa Cruz, living at my parents' house, sleeping on the couch, because Ikizuchi Sensei and this guy that he thought they got the, you know, the good bedroom. So I was on the couch in a sleeping bag. Yeah, I remember.
sure,
But
roughing
you know,
it.
yeah, but you know, that area right there where, you know that. So as far as I can tell, I think basically that's kind of how he was taught by O Sensei. You know, create the sacred space. Open, breath and sound. Gateways open. Boom, boom. The kami come in and move. Certain archetypal patterns come out, like, for example, there's a center. There's a circle. The center circle movement creates spherical movement, which can also create spirals and waves as that sphere rotates. And as that unfolds, then there are different, you give birth to different energies, and you know, you can call them kami. So, you know, that area right there, that's kind of the short history behind the 30 movements. You know, part of me is kind of loath to systematize it too much. Because, you know, basically, anytime you're practicing the 30, if you get past, you know, again, the key word, body feel. And hush, I didn't know what I was doing. In fact, after a while, I didn't want to know. I really didn't. And so, you know, for, you know, like okay, now let's create the 15 variants of this and the 30 variants of that. You know, when I'm around, to some degree, there's some of that original energy around. that Hikisuchi Sensei opened up. And therefore, that's basically how I would prefer that people learned it. And other than that, you get trapped in your awareness. I mean, the thing about thought forms is you can get pretty complex thought forms. In fact, some thought forms are very beautiful, but they're still thought forms. And the original source of that beauty or truth is something else. I think there was a tape that I listened to once. It was a Deepak Chopra tape. And it was a meeting between Albert Einstein and Tagore, an Indian poet laureate, Nobel Prize winner. And
Rabindranath Tagore.
yeah, and I think the way that it was put, and I can't remember, I think it was from Tagore to Einstein, because Einstein was talking about, the, well, to some degree, your sensing of, the truth of the universe, and then reconciling that with what you know. Okay, and how that was a struggle for him. And I think what Tagore said to him, and I'm not kidding, this has been many years since, I listened to that tape, that basically they're the same thing. What you know is a version of that. It's just that, people get trapped in this. But this is meant to keep expanding. As that goes, you bring it back into what you know, and what you know is enriched with new energy, okay? And as you do that, you expand from this level of yourself to a more universal level, and then you can come back and share that with people, But I think that the capper there was what is like, okay, and when he was describing that, it says, you will know it as truth, but you will feel it as beauty. And then Einstein had to get his words in, so apparently he came back to Tagore with, now I know why I'm more spiritual than you are, and laughed, right? Because Tagore was kicking his butt, right? And Tagore, like Einstein, well, actually, Einstein was a study of the spirit. He just, he was trying to package something that he had in terms of the science of the time. And Tagore's advantage was he was a scientist of the spirit. But when you're a scientist of the spirit, what are you? You are an artist creator. Period. I remember hearing something that Art Frank told me once. He's a fantastic Hall of Fame bebop drummer, one of the last of that breed, so to speak, and a real close friend of the jazz great Chet Baker. And so they go to some jazz symposium that they're supposed to play. And Art is listening to all these fantastic musicians with fantastic chops, so to speak. They got all this technique and everything like that. And he's really blown away. because they got to play, right? And so he mentions that to Chet. And Chet says something back that was kind of interesting. He says, all that's really good, but it doesn't matter at all if you can't tell your story. All that stuff, at some point, packages in a very personal way. It's the Weshiva of Aikido. At an even finer level, he was the incarnation of the Dragon King. And he brought into being here what he called Take Musu Aiki. The movements were ongoing creation. Izanagi, Izanami standing on the floating bridge, holding a magical spear, stirring the heavenly brine, the divine chaos of creation, letting it drip down the islands of Japan. So you got some sense of the finer emerging into physical, okay? And they were positioned between heaven and earth on the floating bridge. And they were connected through this jewel spirit. And the forming of the islands of Japan was an act of creation. Therefore, when you are in that space, you are a creator. And what Tagore said, you'll know it as truth, but you will feel it as beauty. And I think it's Tagore. I think I could be getting the whole thing wrong, but that's how it's talking to me, through me. Anything before we move on?
Nope, other than I would really like to read a transcript or hear that conversation.
Yeah, it was available on audio cassette. And the cassette was a lecture by Deepak Chopra. So you might be able to track it down that way. Yeah, no, it's beautiful. But you see, that's the whole thing. There's truth, but you'll know it. You'll feel it as beauty. Yeah, if we kind of go through this a little bit. I mean, as far as I can tell, for example, I've kind of mentioned this lately, but watching a basketball instructional video, where Stephen Curry is talking about it's a crossover move. Well, I'm not going to dribble the ball here because I'm going to get complaints from the people. Okay. Now I'm going to do the crossover. I'm going to do the crossover. And what Mr. Curry said, it just really resonated with me. Is the ball moves first. The ball moves first. The ball moves first. And I said to myself, yeah. The staff moves first. See, I'm thinking, I'm doing a form, which is a level of it. But the staff moves first. The staff moves first. The staff moves first. Now, is there something that moves before the staff? Well, ki or kami move. Now, that's a lot. So, here's me, learning the form. But then I get better. I learn the form better. I start to move better. I start to feel more flow in there. But is that the game? And we said body, feel, Because when I'm up here trying to do it and figure it out, I may get a piece of it. Does body feel? All of a sudden, there's motion. There's motion, 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 motion. And that for me is what it's about. See, one thing Osensei said is that emptiness. What is emptiness? It's freedom. And that goes back to what Mr. Baker said. It's true story. There are all these universal truths. That's nice. Big, 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 big. And there's a journey where you personalize them and become a creator. Period. So your life becomes creation. The universe is a mechanical fact, but it also, to some degree, probably moving at a rate we don't understand. I mean, is it indeed expanding at the speed of light? Boom. It's not a thing. And when we're in that thought form level, we create ourselves to be a thing and the universe to be a thing when it's not. So we're here. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, 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 boom. Yeah, but what I'm doing has a certain structure to it. But I don't particularly want to know. Really don't. I mean, I might do things like, last couple of days, I've been, because I haven't done it in a while, because I actually learned some of Chet Baker's solos. And so I play it because, it lets me know where I am technically. And there's a certain sort of thing. Yeah, you play Chet's notes. But then you got to play your own notes. Your story, right? There's Ueshibo Sensei's Aikido, but on some level, getting past the thought form level, even and the nice thing about the thought forms is there's a stage where the thought forms get bigger, more beautiful. But there's a difference between beauty as a thought form, truth, beauty as something much more immediate, and truth and beauty as a part of your story. It goes back to what Mr. Baker said, all those chops, all that fancy stuff, doesn't matter if you can't tell your story. Anyway, I think we're just about there. So the first part today was actually pretty good because, sometimes we just don't do that enough. We get caught up in learning and doing a movement and everything, but it all kind of goes back to that. The body is a gateway. The mind is important, but the mind, as we are, is just a collection of thought forms. Now, what you find is as you get better, your thought forms get better. But at some point, you really want to get, that's why the body feels important, because as you experience, feel a bit more, this clears up. And so, the gateway to imagination in creation is not, at some point, you can't just keep going, recycling thought forms finer to finer. You have to have the actual substance feel of it. And that's body. And they work as a team. Then your mind frees up. It frees up from thought forms. Okay? thing I've been doing lately is, because I learned a kind of a thing where you clear out thought forms. But, I'll tell you what's a big thought form. And it's not the person. It's called Donald Trump. And he either creates incredible polarity or incredible agreement. And so what I do every day now is I check my own system, because there's so much of him around that I clear that system out of his thought forms. Didn't know he's in your head, did you? And if he's in your head enough, he's kind of in your soul spirit, which is not permissible. So I clear it out. And there are other thought forms like confusion, judgment, hate. Be surprised. But those are energies that are trapped. So my job in a lot of ways is just to cleanse them. They don't want to be caught up in hatred thought forms or even Donald Trump thought forms. They just are energies. Anyway, so that's kind of on the weird side, but that's also kind of part of what Aikido is supposed to do. It's about cleansing. Anyway, we're going to call it for today. We'll be in Mountain View on Sunday. So I thank you for tuning in today. Let's
Thank you, Sensei.